is the video for naming your instances and your functions and pretty much naming everything. We're going to talk about just naming in general. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is naming instances or objects on the stage. Everything on stage that you want to deal with programming have to have an instance name. Now there's a convention, red box 1, give it a name, and then you end the name with an underscore and what the object actually is. In this case, it's a movie clip. Underscore MC for movie clip. If you have a button, it would end in underscore BTN. If it's video, it ends in underscore video. And this isn't just for you, this is actually for programming. When you start wanting to use programming with this object, if you've named this correctly, Flash will give you code hints. When you type the name and then you try and type a command, Flash will look at the name and it'll give you a list of all the commands you can use with that object, but only if you name this correctly. Okay? So everything that's a movie clip should end with underscore MC. Now, another thing to keep in mind is I'm not using underscores in the rest of the name. That's just the way I do it. Okay? I use what's called camel case. And the idea of camel case is that the name looks like a camel because it has humps in the middle. Kind of stupid, but it's pretty good convention. If you don't use it, that's fine. I do. And the idea is if there's more than one word in the name, every word after the first is capitalized. So this capital B in the middle is bigger than the rest of the word, so it looks like a hump in a camel. Okay? Flash uses this as well. As soon as we start typing some ActionScript here in a minute, when I type an ActionScript command that has more than one word, you'll see that it uses this naming convention. Okay? So redbox 1 MC, and I'm actually going to copy this, Control C, and then paste, because I can do that quicker than I can type the whole thing. And I'm going to call them redbox 1, 2, and 3. Remember, every single one has to have a unique name. I could have called it XQ47938GY, as long as I don't use any weird characters, and as long as it starts with a letter, Flash will be able to work with it. It doesn't have a whole lot of meaning for me, and it's going to be hard for me to remember how to type it. Okay? So for your own sake, develop a convention, just a standard way that you name things. Like I said, you don't have to do it the way I do. Just figure out how you want to do it and make sure you do that all the time. You'll have a lot fewer errors because you typed stuff wrong if you're always naming things consistently. Okay? Okay, so one thing to keep in mind as well, capitalization matters. So if I capitalize this B and then in my code I don't capitalize the B, that's actually a different thing. I can call one of these redbox 1 MC with a capital B. I can call the other one redbox 1 with a small b. They're actually different to Flash. And this will work. I won't get an error, but it's going to be really hard for me to keep track of what I'm doing because basically to me I've named them both with the same name. The capitalization doesn't matter as much to me, but it does to Flash. So you want to make sure you use consistent capitalization. That's one reason why I use camel case, because the capitalization is consistent. You only capitalize the first letter of every word after the first one, and you don't capitalize anything else. Okay? Alright, so let's actually apply some programming to one of these. Let's move all of these up here. And you notice I renamed my layer, I'll call it red boxes. Another good convention, and this is standard practice in the community, is to have a layer at the top of your main timeline called Actions. And you put all of your actions in keyframes on this layer. Okay? Okay, so this is going to be a question on the quiz, so keep this in mind. There should be an actions layer at the top of every movie that uses programming. Okay? I'm going to extend my timeline a little bit so my movie has a little more going on. And let's go ahead. Okay, I'm having trouble clicking just one. I'll actually move these around a little bit. All right. So programming goes in keyframes. So on the actions layer, I've only got this keyframe in frame 1. So any actions I put here are going to occur, they're going to be executed in frame 1. Because you remember from a previous video, if you have more than one keyframe, any commands in one of these keyframes is going to be executed when the movie gets to that point. So when the movie gets here, it'll execute any commands in this keyframe. Then when it gets here, it'll execute any commands in this keyframe. So I'm going to right click the first keyframe, open my actions, and now I'm going to do some programming. And we've used events before. If something is clicked on, you're going to use an event listener. So you've already seen this programming. Now it might make a little more sense. The first thing you need to do is type the name of the object that you're going to be dealing with. In this case, redbox1, and I actually copied it onto my clipboard so I can paste it here. Notice the B is capitalized, everything's the same. Redbox1 underscore MC. That's the name, and it might not be this one because I have 3 of them on stage, but one of these boxes is called redbox1 MC. Now the next important concept when you're using Actionscript is what's called dot syntax. You separate different elements of a command in Flash with a dot, not a space, because spaces is how Flash breaks things apart into different pieces. So you can't put a space in the middle of a command. Okay? You put a dot. In this case, I named my movie clip underscore MC. Now that I have this dot, I can use this cool little show code hint button. It's going to pop up a list of every property and method that I can use with this movie clip. Every single one. If you can't remember exactly what it's called, you can just spend an hour or two scrolling through here. Or, in this case, if you remember how it starts, it's add event listener. I don't remember exactly how it's typed, but it starts with add. Okay, so type add, and then hit show code hints, and it's going to start by showing you everything that starts with add. And there it is, add event listener. And it actually shows you in the parentheses the different parameters or information that this method needs. When you have the one you want highlighted, click and press enter. I now have an opening parenthesis. It types it for me automatically. If I hit show code hint again, it's going to pop up and give me some more help. But in this case, I know what I'm doing. Every event listener starts with the type of event. I want to know if they click on it, so that's a mouse event. Now you'll notice that the M is capitalized, and this kind of breaks the rule of camel case that we talked about. This is one of the 2 exceptions to Flash using camel case. Mouse event is a class name. Every class name in Flash, the very first letter will also be capitalized. And then after that it uses camel case. So in movie clip, the M at the beginning will be capitalized. The C won't because it considers movie clip one word. Okay. The other thing to keep in mind, notice the word add event listener is blue. If I've typed it wrong, it isn't. Flash color codes the names it recognizes. Redbox1MC is a name I made up. It's not one of Flash's names, so it won't turn blue. But any function or class name or any constant, anything that's a Flash, what they call a keyword, a reserved word, a word that Flash uses to denote something it does, it will turn blue when you type it, which leads me to remind you, you can't call something mouse event. You can't give this as the name of one of your movie clips because it's a name that means something to Flash. It's a type of class. So you can't use any of these reserved words. You can't give add event listener as the name of a function or an object, okay? And if you don't remember what type of mouse event you're listening for after you hit the dot, show code hints, and wow, my computer's acting weird because it's not supposed to show all these at this point. On the computers at school, you've seen this and it does it. Okay. Okay, my computer is really starting to freak out. All right. Well, I might have to reinstall Flash because it's not working. Okay. Yep, I got a little bit of a problem. When we did this the other day in class, it only shows the capitalized words that are the different types of mouse events. I'm going to have to look at my computer to see why it's doing that. All right. Then a comma separates the first parameter from the second one. And then for every event, you have to make up a name of a function. This name is something you make up, and it really should be meaningful to you. So if your code gets thousands of lines long and you have to go back and look at it, you don't have weird acronymic names that really don't mean anything. You know, you go back a year from now, you're not going to remember the cool names you gave something. For an event, it's really easy, and this is how I do it, and I highly recommend it. You do a who, what. Who was clicked on, or who was listening for the event, and what was the event. In this case, I would call the function redbox1 clicked. That's how I make up my names for the function that's part of an event listener. Redbox1 clicked. Red, capital B for box, capital C for clicked. Red box clicked. If I see red box 1 clicked. Remember, I've got 3 of them, so I got to make sure I call it by its own name. Okay. And then closing parenthesis and the semicolon. All right. And then you need a function with this name, red box 1. And you already see the mistake I just made? I didn't capitalize the C, but up here it is capitalized. Flash will not be able to figure this out. You have to be very precise. I highly recommend double-clicking, copy, paste. Now you don't have to worry because you copied and pasted. You know this is going to be identical to what you typed up there. And at this point, this information that comes after the name isn't going to change. You're going to see this exact same event colon mouse event colon void on every single function name you write for an event that's a mouse event. Okay, so this part will never change. And it'll be in the handouts. When I have an assignment and you have to use this event listener, you'll see an example that shows you exactly what you need to type. So don't worry that you have to remember exactly what this looks like. You'll have it in writing as part of any assignment I give you. Okay? And then when you hit enter, it's going to give you these curly braces that open and close. Okay? In between these two curly braces, you can put as many commands as you want. And that's part of the function for this event. Okay? So I wandered a little bit out of naming into events. We've seen them before. You'll also notice Flash added a line at the very top when I added this mouse event. Don't worry about the import statement, just leave it there. We'll figure out what that's doing later on. And I think I'm done with naming. So just remember, keep it simple, keep it meaningful for you, keep it consistent, and everything has to have a unique name.